got something a little different I'm going to do. Today, I'm trying to keep this video short. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, so obviously it's going to be a lot of editing on this tape, but I have this old, as far as I can tell, 1969 Silverface amplifier, and I have the matching cabinet that goes with it. It sounds awesome. Now, I realize there's probably some electrolytic capacitors that need to be replaced, but the way it sounds right now is fantastic. I'm almost afraid to fix anything I find because it might not sound as good. So all we're going to do right now is we're going to take this amplifier out of this chassis out of this amplifier and clean. I'm going to clean potentiometers, which is all these little things. You know, you get that extremely scratchy, terrible noise with every one of these. And of course, this thing has, I don't know how much it's been gigged with, but you can tell by the cigarette smoke, the general yellowing of things, that it's either been in some honky tonks or some serious stuff. So we're going to just open it up, and we're going to clean some things. And obviously I'm not going to take a lot of pictures of me getting into it. If I come across anything that I think needs to be included while I'm getting into it, I'll leave that in when I edit this thing. But I'm just gonna take it apart and show you how to clean the pots and the tube sockets, because those are critical places where filth can just destroy good connections. So y'all hang with me, and maybe we'll both learn a little something today. I'm not a amp tech. I've worked on things. I've soldered things. I understand electricity enough to get myself in trouble a lot of times, but I have fixed a lot of things, including printed circuit boards and other things that I've come across and was lucky enough to find the problem with. So, and of course, being a working musician, starting back 40 years ago, actually probably 43 years ago, you had to fix your own stuff a lot of times because we couldn't afford, an amp tech to go on travel with us when we played our music. So you had to pretty much be able to troubleshoot stuff yourself. And that was in the days before the internet. So you learned the hard way, unfortunately. And we're just going to dig in, and I appreciate y'all being with me today on this adventure. Okay, I want you to see how this looks. You see the reverb tank is basically in a vinyl bag, and it's just hanging here by the screw that goes through to the front grill. Okay, now I'm going to do my best to get this chassis out. I can tell that the amp chassis has already been out because somebody bent the silver face is like concave this way. That means that they tried to drag it out with it sitting right side up and this lip caught. So I'm going to avoid doing that if at all possible. I'm going to see if we can get this out without messing it up further, and I think we can, because I think it's just going to slide right out. You never know, I'm going to pull this rectifier tube out. Oh yeah, that's an RCA. And it is a 5U4 GB. So that's most likely original. Let me see if I can find a number on it. I don't see a date code, but I don't have my glasses on, so I will get my glasses out later. Okay, I'm going to leave the reverb tank connected to the grill cloth board. I'll put that screw right back where it goes. Okay. So you can see this is a reverb tank. It's in this vinyl bag. And there, probably 43 years. You see 69. Oh wow. I hate to even say 53 years of dust. And at one time it looks like this end of the bag, right there, this end of the bag screws to the grill cloth. So, and the original screw is still there. So we may do that back when I'm finished giving it a cleaning. And there's obviously the input reverb in and out that goes into the RCA jacks on the back of the amplifier for reverb in and out. I want y'all to notice there is metal screen here, and what that metal screen does, for those of you that aren't amp guys, when you put the, let me see how pristine, oh my goodness, y'all, PRIS team. It looks like nothing has been touched in here. So guess what? Jamie's not changing any filter caps or any electrolytic caps or any of these resistors here that you know need to be replaced, because these grid resistors right here, they sit right over top of tube sockets, and tubes get hot. So I'm sure they need to be replaced. Now they're pretty tough, that's the good news about it, but modern metal film resistors, somebody qualified puts those in here, it'll last for the next 100 years, just because the technology has come so far. But now all these electrolytics here that you see here, they man, they all look good to me. But they call these brown turd capacitors for a reason. and you send this to a good amp guy, he will replace all those. A lot of times, the ones that go bad are these big ones under this little under this little metal ashtray looking thing. But all these are covered with metal. The screen is in there to go over the top of this. I got a little distracted when I saw how good a shape this was in. That screen sits over the top of here to make like a Faraday cage. So this doesn't pick up interference from fluorescent lights. Of course, all these have been changed to LED and the ballast's cut out. But to keep this amp from picking up noise, there's screen lining the top of the inside of the cabinet. So that basically works like a Faraday cage. Keeps out random RF interference, you know. I'm just really excited by the way this looks in here. Now right here, here's your depth capacitor. The reason they call that a depth capacitor is because the way they wired these in with these old 2-prong cords, if that capacitor right there burns out while you're holding it and got your hands on the guitar string, it'll kill you. So we're going to bypass that for sure. I'm not a scared of dying. And if I gotta go, holding a guitar is probably a good way to go, or holding a gun. But my luck would be one of my expensive guitars, and I'd face plant on the floor and, you know, bust the headstock of my Firebird, break the neck on my thin line Telly, and we can't have that. So we're gonna bypass this. I may show you that when I do that. That's not a really big job, and my soldering skills are plenty good. And what we're probably going to do too is there's a little outlet on the back of here where you can plug 110 volts. Kind of gives you a thing to plug in accessory right here. Now, it's not made to pull a lot of watts through here, obviously, because that's an old, I'm going to say Bakelite outlet, but we're going to make sure that black is to the little side and that white is to the wide side. And yeah, it's completely backwards. We're probably going to do away with the ground lift, because anywhere now where you have good wiring in a place and it uses 3-prong plugs, if you're using a 3-prong plug and the place you're plugging into has a 3-prong plug, you can't get the ground backwards, and that's what this was for. This was for outlets that would be wired incorrectly. Or maybe you'd even plug the 2-prong plug in. Let me get it. You plug the 2-prong plug in and see there's not a wide spade here. These are both the same size, so you plug it in backwards and you hear like a buzz, or you feel a little tingle coming through when you touch the microphone to sing or something. You could actually lift the ground to the other side and it would neutralize that. So we're probably going to fix that. I'll do that myself. I'm good enough at soldering that I can fix that myself. That's no big deal. But I'm going to take a minute and break away. I'm going to go get some boards to prop this chassis on so that I'm not resting on the tubes, because y'all, these tubes, that almost looks like a K88 instead of a 6L6. Dumont, made in USA. And like I say, I don't have my glasses, so I can't tell, but I think somebody has modded the tubes in this amp, and I hope that means that means that they biased this amp correctly. I'm going to remember what positions these go in. This is a 6L6GC, so this is correct to the amp. And now is probably good a time as any to give you a little history on this amplifier. This amplifier was sold to my grandfather probably in the early 80s. Because my grandfather bought an electric guitar from me. It was a sweet guitar. It was a grandad Les Paul copy. And it looked like an all-natural Les Paul. Even the neck was maple, and it had black fret markers in it. Really pretty guitar. It's the first electric guitar I ever bought. I bought it when I was 16. Worked all summer at Salant Manufacturing in Union City, and put it in layaway at King's Music. And at the end of the summer, before school started back, I went in and got it out of layaway, and at the time gave quite, I mean, it was $300 back in the 80s, and of course buying it for King's, that probably means I paid twice as much as it was worth. But it was always a good guitar for me. I have pictures of Ronnie Parker playing it, and Ronnie actually, he loved that guitar. And back when we played in a band called Rapid Fire together, and so he played it quite a lot when we did shows. And in 1981, I bought a brand new, sure enough, Fender Lead 1, brand new. And when I bought it, look at that. The original caps are in here. The big electrolytic. So that has never been changed. And those probably really need to. I'm not sure. But looking at the date codes on everything, on the transformers, I'm really going to need to get my glasses. Guessing the top is a part number. This is made in the first week of '69. This one was made in the 9th week of 1969. This one was made in the 8th week, or the 48th week of 1968. Looking at the date code. So this is definitely going to be a 69. We'll check the potentiometers, because all those have a date code too, and make sure all that lines up. But first, I'm going to go get me some blocks to set this on so that I can flip this over and clean those pots really good. All right, so we got a stand made. All I'm really doing now is I'm going through and I'm kind of brushing any dust and crud out of the way. these seem to be, all the electrolytics seem to be Mallory, which I think are pretty decent capacitors. So, you know, this thing may not have any that are out of whack. All I know is it sounds really good. And what we're going to do, we're going to come back, and in all these knobs on the front of the amp, we're going to spray some deoxit right in there, and in those jacks where you plug in. We're going to spray it in there, and we're going to work each one of them a whole lot. There's one that looks like it's loose in the cabinet. I might have to pull the knob off of that one. Where was it? Right there. Pull the knob off that one and tighten the nut on the front of it. But all the rest of them seem like they're in really good. There, I don't know if you can see, right there is the bias potentiometer. That's where you adjust the bias for all the power coming to the tubes. And it's really I've seen how to do it. I'm just not equipped to do it. They have some rigs made in there that you can actually, you know, that you plug in place your tubes, and you can actually get how they do it. They divide, I think they divide the voltage times the amperage and gives you the watts. And I'm not sure. All the tubes have a different bias point for how hot they need to run, but I know they like to set them at around 70% of what they call their operating wattage. So that's kind of above my pay grade. I'm not going to be doing that. I'm going to clean all these out and clean the jacks, and I'll show you some of that when I get started on it. I'll show you how that all works. I will tell you that this has, I have the matching cabinet, and if you noticed, the head has screws that go through the bottom of the, let me see if I can let you see without making you seasick. See those screws right there that go through the bottom of the cabinet? There's one on each side. I don't know if you can see it. Let me raise you up a little. There it is. There's one of those screws on each side of the head cabinet, and you reach in through the back of the head and you can actually screw it to the speaker cabinet so that you don't worry about it sliding off. So I have the matching cabinet, and I will tell you, for whatever reason, I'm not sure, but from what I can tell, the speaker date code, and I'll put some pictures in here, dates to 1972. But the funny thing is that the cabinet has no drip edge. Now, let me show you what a drip edge is. On the front of this grill cloth, you can see it has this aluminum, what they call an aluminum drip edge. Now, that didn't come into place until 1968. But halfway through
At the end of 67, first of 68, they started putting this on so that it has this little drip edge around there. The cabinet I have doesn't have this drip edge around the grill cloth. So that tells me that that cabinet is probably in 1967. But here's the kicker. In 1972, they erased, or they changed out the speakers. Now they did go back with Fender branded speakers, and the speaker code is Oxford speakers. They're 12-inch speakers. There's 2 of them in the cab. I'll show you the whole thing here in a little bit when we get it all put back together. But it has no drip edge around the front of it. So it's not a 72 cabinet. It's a 1967 cabinet that at some time had the speakers changed. Now, like I said, they're a match pair. They have the same speaker date code that dates to, I think, 73. I said 72, but I think it's 73. I'll put a picture in there when I edit the video. But and Oxford's, a lot of people say that Oxford isn't the best sounding Fender brand speaker because they were manufactured by Oxford, and there was a bunch of people that manufactured speakers for Fender, and Fender put their label on. But I'm telling you, this cabinet sounds really good, and its mid-range is really good. Of course, the BANDMASTER cabinet is huge for 212s, and that's to give the speaker the cabinet volume that it needs to work. And if you get too small a cabinet and close the back of it, the speakers can't work efficiently. So that's why you see most combo guitar amps have an open back, which allows the speaker to move. If you don't have an open back, you need cabinet volume. That's why all the big guitar cabinets back in the late 60s, early 70s, they wanted to give that speaker cone, because when it moved back and moved forward, that movement created overpressures and vacuum in the cabinet as that speaker moved. So a lot of times they would cut baffle holes in the back of the grill cloth to allow air in and out and give that speaker movement. Well, Fender just decided to go with cabinet volume. Now there are baffle holes in the front of that cabinet, I believe. I don't know. We're gonna take that back off and look at that, and I'll insert some pictures in there to show you this. But this is the bias pot right here. And I don't know if you're seeing what I'm seeing. Yeah, you can see that. But that's the bias potentiometer. It's got a screw slot in it, and when you have it hooked up, you can adjust that to adjust the peak or the optimum wattage for your power tubes. So, like I said, that's above my pay grade. We're not going to mess with that. We're going to assume that's right until I actually send this out to be checked out by a professional amp tech. And we're not going to mess with that. What I like to do is spray one over here and then go like 3/4 of the way and give a little spray again. And then just work the knob back and forth. Now this, I believe, is a reverb, and it was really noisy. So we're going to see if cleaning this will help get rid of that noise. And the cool thing, these old tube amps, the tremolo even runs through a tube, So everything on this is tube driven. I showed you the rectifier tube. The rectifier tube that fits in right here. I showed you where it was the original rectifier tube, I believe. It's made in the USA by RCA. And you know, even after this, they went to a solid state rectifier and left everything else in tubes. Well, this is prior to that. It actually has its tube rectifier, which some people say is a good thing. Some people say it'd be better off if it was solid state. I don't know. I think that this may be the reverb. Because it feels very dirty. So I think this is gonna clean up my reverb. Now, if there is a negative to this, it takes a while to dry. Because it also has, but the good thing is it has a lubricant in here. And this is safe on plastics. So some of that contact cleaner you get is not safe on plastics. This is a tremolo. How these tremolos work is pretty amazing. You see this little thing right here? This is a light bulb. There's a light bulb in here with a diode. And that light coming on and off activates that circuit, and you can adjust the rate at which it moves. And when the light is on, the circuit drops. The output drops, and when the light is off, it picks up. So it gives you that wow, 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 that tremolo wavering in that circuit. I'll show you that when we get it all put back together. When you plug a 1/4-inch cable into these, you'll notice that the sleeve rests against the inside. Let me get something a little finer. Rests against the inside of the jack. Okay. The tip right here rests against that. And you see when you push that in, it separates right here. That means when this is plugged in, the signal is closed. When this is unplugged, the signal is open. So no sound runs through your wiring as long as there's nothing plugged in here. So when you plug, watch this point right here. Now that lets the current go through. So obviously you need to spray in here to make sure this contact area in here is good and clean. You need to clean here, and you need to clean the inside. Watch where this comes through. You need to clean the inside of this right here. Okay, and everything's pretty easy to clean except the inside of this. This is why I need to get a bore brush and just very gently, just 25 caliber would be optimum, but I don't think I have a 25 caliber bore brush. I do have a 270 caliber, so it's a brand new brush, so it's not dirty. That's what I'm going to get to clean those out. You won't need to watch that part of it. Just know that that's how I'm going to do it. This is a 6L6 GC. Looking for a date code. And sometimes, y'all, they were just painted on there. So it's not uncommon for the date code to wear off. course, made in USA. Now how we clean that is, we give a little bitty squirt in each of those, and then we just gently take that tube. You see, this tube is positional, so you got to put that keyway right there and just plug it in and out, in and out. And you got to hold these retaining clips open so they don't snag the side of your tube. All right, when I clean them, I'm just going to put them in there and leave them in there. Let's look before we want to see if we can get a date code off this rectifier tube. BS USA 5U46B. It's a 5-pin rectifier tube. All of them look great, so I mean, none of them have gone milky. You can see, sometimes you see they start getting white around here. That means they've lost vacuum. That means that the tube, if it's not bad, it's going bad quickly. And this one really looks good. So I'm just going to clean the pins up. And it, like I say, it is positional, so turn the keyway. There's a little keyway on here, a little key on here. You want to make sure it matches up with that. A lot of times, that's why people mess up their tubes. They just try to cram it in there anyway, and then they end up forcing this thing in a direction it doesn't go, and that changes the circuitry to the amp when you do that. And you can damage things. Let's see if we get a date code on this Mallory cap. Yeah, 1968, the 26th week, or the 28th week. It's tough when you get old, but that's what it looks like. 1968, the 28th week. So I'm going to say this amp probably left the factory because some parts are early 69, some parts are late 1968, mid to late. So I'm going to say that this probably left the Fender factory in 1969. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the covers are over there where I pulled them off. I'm going to put these covers back on. We're going to flip this over. We're going to plug the cabinet in, and we're going to see how this sounds. But first, and y'all don't have to see that, first I'm going to clean these and clean those jacks over there. Listen to that tone. Now you'll notice the bad thing about these old tube amps is to get the crunch, there's only one way to get it, and that's to turn them up. There's no master volume on these old amps. So that's why most people keep them relatively clean and use a pedal to get some overdrive.